Hailing from the era of weekends at Blockbusters and disposable cameras, I have little doubt in my mind that my latest purchase, this 2001 Lincoln Navigator, has hold a Furby or a Beanie Baby or two in its day. This piece of SUV history is certainly well past its prime now, but I picked it up really cheap, ridiculously cheap, only $400 cheap. And surprisingly, it's still a perfectly usable and very comfortable and somewhat attractive vehicle. I'm shocked. On my YouTube channel, I've documented a lot of cheap purchases that cost less than a week at a Holiday Inn Express hotel, but I've never bought one for less than $500 that's about the same size as a Holiday Inn Express hotel room, this 2001 Lincoln Navigator. Unintentionally, this is also my third Lincoln that I've bought in the last couple of years for less than $500, but this is definitely the best of the Lincolns. I'm not driving this one directly to the junkyard like the old Lincoln Mark 7 that I did about a month ago. This thing is actually a very usable vehicle still. It could haul a family of 7 and give them reliable service for years, all for $400, which is just absolutely insane. And not only that, but this family of 7 would be driving a piece of SUV history. As Doug DeMuro pointed out in his video earlier this year with a mint Lincoln Navigator, same color, but a mint low mileage example, which this one is not. This was the first giant luxury SUV that was built not to go off-road. Sure, there's the Range Rover or the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, but they were built still to ford rivers and climb rocks. These came in two-wheel drive or full-time all-wheel drive, and I don't even think the all-wheel drive ones had an option for a low range on the transfer case. I may be wrong on that, but still, this was not built to go off-road. Anything more than a dirt road and this thing would get horrifically stuck. But Lincoln was the very first smart ones to figure out that virtually nobody cares about the off-road credentials of their SUVs. Instead, Lincoln took the Ford Expedition platform and gave it a luxury treatment similar to a Lincoln Town Car. Similar features such as rear air ride suspension, 32-valve double overhead cam heads that you'd find on a Lincoln Mark 8, and the interior and exterior was all blinged out. Yes, lots and lots of bling, which I will now show you on a tour of this $400 Lincoln Navigator. Now, when I first saw this Lincoln at auction about a month ago, I wasn't all that impressed at first. If you see it on first glance, it doesn't look all that great because the bumper's been cracked. Clearly there was a little hit here. And on the other side, it's sitting on its full-size spare, and the alloy wheel to match the rest of them is missing. Additionally, the battery was dead, so I couldn't even start up this Navigator, which the dead battery also led to the air suspension in the back being completely collapsed. So that painted a picture of a very busted, neglected car that was probably on its way to the junkyard, or so I thought. It sat there after another week of the auction not selling, and another week of the auction not selling, and another, and finally I decided, why is this thing not selling? What makes it so bad? Figuring I'd find something funny like a bad transmission, a ticking engine, figure out why it hadn't sold yet. And when I got inside, I was really impressed. But before we get inside, let me show you some of the bling on this Lincoln, including its Navigator logo there, the globe. I think that's really sharp. These carbon fiber portholes are certainly aftermarket, but look at the size of this thing. It's just massive. And you can see they were totally crazy about badge engineering this Navigator to make sure nobody mistook it for a Lincoln. You have Lincoln badges all over the place, down here, on the back and the front, and the grille looks right out of a Lincoln Town Car as well. They dressed it up just enough to look different, but the big difference between an Expedition is on the inside. Look at this embroidered perforated leather seat, which is heated and cooled and super comfortable. You have the Lincoln Town Car multifunction steering wheel, and in the back you have captain seats with a big center console for the second row passengers, in addition to the third row seat. Now, this is all commonplace stuff in modern SUVs. This is definitely a dinosaur in comparison to what's new. But back in 1997, a lot of these things were a first with the Lincoln Navigator, and they sold like crazy. But even though this thing was a total sales smash and people love these things, they did depreciate like normal luxury cars and fell into second, third, fourth, fifth owners that drove them into the ground. So there's not many first-generation Lincoln Navigators left, especially clean ones, which when I sat in this thing and saw that the leather was still nice, it still smelled good, and when I started it up, it still sounded good, I was absolutely shocked. All the warning lights go off, the automatic climate control works, and even the Alpine stereo will blast Mariah Carey's Christmas hits for you with ease. And you hear the air pump going, When it first fired up, the air suspension rose almost immediately, so the air ride was working as well. I couldn't believe it. Everything I tried on this thing worked, and it was even more impressive when I started driving it. Broke the tires loose a little bit there. This 300 horsepower V8 is quiet and pulls really well. Ford V8s of this era aren't known for their durability. The early 5.4s had the issues where the spark plugs would blow out of their holes, and the later ones had the cam phaser issues, but I think this Intech V8 with a different head doesn't have these problems. But it's not just the drivetrain that's all smooth and good despite this thing having 192,000 miles on it. The suspension is still very soft and comfortable. The rear air ride is working perfectly, and there are no squeaks and rattles to be heard anywhere on this car's entire chassis. It is super impressive how well this thing's held together at 192,000 miles, despite the fact that this is a salvage title, well-used example. Oh yeah, getting up to highway speeds now. This thing is so smooth and quiet and comfortable. It is way too nice for a $400 vehicle that I just bought from the auction and didn't do a thing. And other than being a gas guzzler, this would make a great vehicle for a family despite the fact that it's almost 20 years old and has almost 200,000 miles on it. And it was $400. I'd keep it, but I have so many aging luxury SUVs in my Hoopty fleet right now that if I put them all together, it would look like a YMCA parking lot during a 5th grade soccer tournament. I have way too many, so I can't keep this. I'm not going to destroy it. I'm not going to junk it, obviously. So I've already decided maybe I should embrace the Christmas spirit and give this Navigator away to a family in need. I asked my mechanic, the Car Wizard, if he knew of somebody, and he immediately thought of his office manager, Big Dave, who really needs a new vehicle. His truck is falling apart. It's not worth fixing. And since he's a Ford fan, it's a perfect fit. So I'm on my way to the Car Wizard now as a ruse to do a mechanical inspection, but really, we're going to surprise him with this Navigator. Wizard, look at your Hoopty fleet. You've wasted no time on this Elante de-wheeling it.
Yeah, my Hoopty fleet's growing every day.
Did you show it to your wife?
Yeah, she likes it.
If you guys didn't see my last two videos, I got 2 Elantes, and to fix one, I gave Wizard one in exchange for fixing the white one. So now you were going to surprise your wife with the Elante, and she liked it?
She loves it.
Awesome.
She's looking forward to spring and summertime with the top down and driving around in it.
It is very pretty.
Very cool car.
But also pretty is Squirtle. Look at all this stuff.
Yeah, that's all the parts we've put on it so far.
Well, I got this Navigator at the exact same auction as this Beetle, and I think there's a lot less wrong with this Navigator. Come take a look.
All right.
Only $400. So Wizard, before we give this thing to your office guy, Crazy D, let's make sure it's not a giant red hand grenade, huh?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Luckily, this isn't not the 3-valve 5.4 that I hate so much.
It looks very dry, huh?
$400? You can't even put an alternator on this thing for that.
I know. This is very clean
Wow,
engine bay, huh?
It amazingly is clean.
Yeah? Yeah, for $400, it's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle, really.
It is.
How's it look underneath?
Let's take a look.
We don't really need a lift.
No, we're not going to do a full-blown deal on it. What? It's dry under there.
It is dry.
The transmission's dry, the oil pan's dry, the radiator's dry.
So really, you could get a wheel to match. But
yeah, you could go order a wheel on eBay.
But other than that, there's really not much to do with this thing. I drove it on the Highway 80. Everything works perfectly.
It looks nice in
Yeah,
here.
the
For
interior's-
$400, man, you can't complain.
I know. I was thinking about on the drive up how we're going to set this up. Now, you and I are not Ford people. We don't really like Fords.
No.
But Crazy D is nuts about Ford.
He
So
loves them.
I figured we could set it up as kind of like a debate. Like, where he's going to come defend Fords while we trash them, but not knowing that he's going to get this thing. So
Okay.
maybe we'll go
He's gonna
grab
be
him.
excited when he finds out.
All right, there's Crazy D,
Check
the
this-
Ford man.
Yeah, check this thing out, Crazy D. I'm not really a fan of Fords. I think they're pretty junky, but
Oh no, Ford will go down the road with more wrong with it than any vehicle out there.
you think so?
And last longer than your Mercedes and your other vehicles that we have in here all the time that have the most minor little problems that take them off the road.
So your argument is a Ford will go down the road broken longer than anything else.
Yes, a Ford will go down the road broken longer than everything else. So it will carry you to work every day. Until payday, then you can get that thing fixed, hopefully.
And your truck's a prime example. So what's everything wrong with your truck then?
Everything wrong with my truck. The heater heats just enough to keep you warm. The front end is totally shot and needs a total rebuild. The passenger side door window doesn't go up and down, and the interior looks like someone let a ravaged dog go in it, and it's just the way it came.
And every single light's on the dash.
Every single light's on the dash, to the point they've been on so long that most of them have burned out. So, hey, I don't know if the light's on or not.
Yeah.
You know,
the engine's pretty noisy.
Yeah,
the
transmission's got a little bit of a tick, but you know.
So it's like a limo.
Amazingly nice.
You can tell everybody you own a Lincoln instead of a Ford. It just sounds better.
Right.
A fancier vehicle.
Oh no, that's my Lincoln. Yeah.
Have you ever had a Lincoln?
Nope, never had a Lincoln. Never ever owned a Lincoln. We have a customer that brings his Lincoln pickup truck in here, and I kind of drool over it every time it comes in. I'd love to have.
Because this thing's way too nice for me to do my normal thing with it, where I dig a hole or do something stupid or destroy it. So I've decided that I want to make you a Lincoln owner, sir.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
It's all yours. Merry Christmas. It goes down the road 80 quietly, perfectly. It's so smooth and so quiet. I'm so impressed with it. But I have so many SUVs. I don't need a 10th one. It's kind of stupid for me to hoard all these luxury SUVs, so I figured I'd just find a good home with it. And
it's Christmas on 34th Street.
It's Christmas on 30th. Yeah.
So, Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you.
Your first Lincoln.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't belong in a hole. It belongs in a
No, I think this thing will give years of good service left. The suspension's still tight. There's no lights on the dash. The heat works, air works, everything works.
And the Wizard only needs one pond in his backyard.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's totally awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, hop in.
You're a Lincoln guy now.
Yeah.
See, the awesome. If the heater doesn't take 2.5 weeks to warm up like the truck now. I started about 30 minutes before work, and it may be warmed up by the time I get up here to the office.
Yeah. All right, well, congrats,
awesome.
man.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Well, this is kind of fun. I'm going to turn into the Sarah McLachlan of Hoovies instead of adopting little animals. I'll find homes for Hoovies. It seems to work out well. Thank you for watching.